Hi, this is Gary, and I'm part of Brotaku Entertainment. Here at Brotaku, I'm the resident photographer, and I'd like to introduce two of my friends who are going to join us on this podcast today. Taylor?
Hi, I'm Taylor. I'm a cosplayer. Most recently, at the convention, we'll be discussing Sac Anime. I cosplayed DJ Scully of Killing Floor and Setzer from Final Fantasy VI. I also do a lot of social media things like the Brotaku Tumblr and Twitter accounts. Todd?
And I am Todd, also known as Coconut Pixels. I have a DeviantArt and also an Etsy page where I sell perler bead art. I'm also a part-time cosplayer and photographer.
Okay, and the reason all three of us are here is because all three of us have just gone to Sac Anime 2015, and we wanted to talk about our experiences at the convention. So, we wanted to start off just talking about the basics of Sac Anime. It's a medium-sized convention, which at last count of attendance, which I believe was winter of 2014, it had about 10,000, give or take, people attend the show. This year, they had a particularly stunning lineup of guests doing autographs and panels. The voice actors are almost innumerable, like the talent they brought in. So it's almost kind of a very quirky convention. We're going to start off by talking about the pros, the things that we really liked about the convention, move on to the cons, and then just give our final conclusion on the convention as a whole. So let's go with starting with the size. The smaller size of Sac Anime. What were your thoughts on the size of Sac Anime, Taylor?
I think the size is a benefit because being I would call it a medium-sized con, they're able to bring in the talent, like the cast of Futurama was there, most of it, not all of it. But that's no small feat. So that is significant in that they can bring in big voice actors, along with the fact that when we were in pre-reg, we got through in a half an hour because the con itself is manageable enough to just do that. That its size is put together well enough. I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it's also well handled. Like there was no problems with waiting in line for the tickets. Machines did not go down. They used smartphones in order to scan our passes and then give us like a little wristband.
And we'll talk about the wristband system later because I don't know how I feel about that, pro or con. But yeah, registration was really easy to navigate. The small size of the convention made a lot of the lines manageable, including the lines into events, panels, the autographs. It was long, but for conventions, in comparison, it actually wasn't that bad. One line basically got you through the entire lineup of Futurama's cast. It wasn't a separate line for every person. So if you think about the 2 hours you spent there, really it's more like almost 15 minutes per person getting a signature.
Yeah, you're not having to go through the line multiple times. And being that this is a medium or a small con, compared to Fanime and Anime Expo, I mean, you're getting a good bang for your buck.
Oh, it's especially for your buck because the convention is actually really cheap. Our hotel was, I believe, something like 200 a night between the three of us. Actually, less than that.
Yeah, it was less. It was
150 a night.
Yeah.
What he said.
Although there was extenuating circumstances for that, but it was definitely easy to find an affordable hotel room for the convention. The passes themselves were like what, $25?
25, 30 if you pre-reg early enough.
Yeah.
Depending on when you register, yes.
So, I mean, definitely not one of the more expensive conventions that we've been to.
And the hotels are right by the convention.
Yeah, there's a lot of hotels. The restaurants are all centrally located. You didn't feel like you had to journey too far from your hotel to get to the convention center. You did get some looks when you were walking.
If you were in cosplay like me.
Yeah, yes. Because there's several bars and restaurants along the way, and it seems to be a heavily trafficked area. So there's people in large diners just sitting there eating outside in the patio, and they're seeing these people, these cosplayers, just walk by, and you can visibly see like The Rock doing his "what is happening here" eyebrow as we walk by.
Uh,
Uh,
I got that look a number of times.
Especially in Setzer. Especially in
Especially,
Setzer.
mhm.
especially in Setzer, yeah. Um,
Who is this classy fellow?
I get the feeling those weren't the words going through their heads.
I don't think those are the words.
Yeah.
But yeah, the entire area is very convenient oriented, which is not the first thing that comes to mind when I think convention space.
Well, we've spent a lot of time at places like Anime Expo, which has to be one of the worst. I don't want to say organized, but it kind of is that too. But in terms of the layout, like there's not a lot of places to eat nearby, with the exception of food trucks, which I heard took a hit this year.
Mhm.
There's not a lot of hotels that you can walk to the convention center from, so it's really kind of inconvenient as a whole. And here it's almost the exact opposite of that. There's places that you can eat for relatively cheap nearby. The food is at least a high enough quality that it doesn't feel like my wallet is being reamed. I don't know. What were your thoughts on that?
I remember in previous years of Anime Expo, always the computers would go down at the beginning, and then we'd have to wait like an extra hour or two in line, just to get registered.
Taylor, what was your thoughts on the food?
uh, the thoughts on the food were I'm very positive because it struck a good middle ground between quality and price, because there are a lot of chains around there, but at the same time the restaurants you're eating in are not, they're just not too expensive. Like you can go cheaper with some of the menus, or in some cases, like at the bento box place, you could really go all out if you want just like a full buffet of sushi. Or you could walk down to the little hole-in-the-wall Subway, or the 7-Eleven that's next to it.
Or Pyology.
Or the Pyology place, the Chipotle meets pizza.
Yep.
Exactly. It was also nice that the bento box was like 50% off on all sushi.
Just the rolls. Just the rolls.
Well, yes, on the rolls, but I mean, like, you pretty much go there for the rolls anyways.
We have differing opinions on sushi, but we can move on from that.
Yes, moving on to the cosplay scene.
Yeah, so the cosplay scene was kind of hit and miss for me. The large gatherings weren't to my liking, which we'll talk about later, but there was a lot of very unique and original cosplays there.
Yeah, I think it was because of the smaller size of the con that people were just a little more inclined to put themselves out there with something different. Because we saw at least two almost completely original cosplays that we had no frame of reference for.
Yeah, but they look good, so we took a picture.
Yes.
There was also a lot of fun girls and people from different D&D groups cosplaying as their own characters.
And then you also had the very original takes on long-established characters. You had I don't want to say crossplay, because she wasn't trying to fit into a male costume, but it was a redesign of Robin for the female body, in almost a 50s pinup fashion, which was really well done. Like, the hair was done perfectly, and the style seemed to fit, like, dead on.
Yeah, you could tell this girl really put effort into making the image, like that aesthetic, and she nailed it.
Yeah. And then, of course, we ran into Jada Robin, who was doing her own version of Dio from JoJo.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that, I honestly don't think that could have been more perfect.
No, she was also running her own booth there, and I think was selling photographs.
Yeah, she was selling prints of her other cosplays that were like actually professionally photographed. It wasn't just things done on the con floor.
Mm-hmm.
So, the other thing is we ran into a lot of people who liked, talking, which is kind of unusual. Normally, people talk at you at a con, and I think we actually ran into people who talked with us this time around. and that was kind of a nice experience. I remember you running into the Kingdom Hearts person next to Giada Robin at the booth. Taylor.
Oh yeah, the Axel who recognized me as the Setzer, because I mean, obviously she was a Square Enix fan, and that was a lovely conversation. Uh, and as DJ Scully, which is from an indie game, I got to talk to at least two people who were also fans, and just were I don't know, just appreciative that I was cosplaying something unknown.
And that actually kind of those segues into one of at least my problems with the convention, which was the focus of the cosplays there were very geared towards about a handful of series. So if you like those series, man, this con was great. But
yeah, if you have a Steven Universe fandom, let me tell you, it was there.
Yeah, that or the Homestuck, them peoples. Yes.
Lots of Homestuck.
There was Homestuck. You couldn't shake a stick without hitting someone dressed from Homestuck. So go ahead.
In my opinion, there was also a lot of Attack on Titan, but I hear you guys didn't run into that problem.
No, I mean, I think I ran into like one Titan in a bodysuit, and then one Titan that was legitimately like 10 feet tall, who was wearing like these huge stilts. And I think I saw like a total of maybe 3 or 4 people dressed up as Scout Squad.
I don't know.
Like in full 3D gear.
I kept running into tons of scouts. That's me.
I have seen so many people in Scouting Legion jackets that it doesn't even register anymore.
Well, a lot of people just wear the jackets now, like just as a thing.
They are stylish. I'll give it that.
So, I mean, like we ran into Steven Universe, ran into the Homestuck, and if you have any interest outside of that or outside of League of Legends, not only as cosplay but also when you're looking for merchandise, you were kind of screwed.
Yeah, it was limited to like Attack on Titan, Fate Stay Night, and League of Legends in terms of merchandise.
Well, there was other merchandise besides that, but they were from like just generally popular things like
Pokemon.
Pokemon was I was gonna say, and there's always something. It seems like always can find some kind of like Dragon Ball Z merchandise or Sailor Moon. Just the classics.
Yeah. So I felt very underwhelmed, but that's coming from the Fanime experience. You're coming from the Anime Expo experience, where like the exhibition hall is gigantic, and in this convention they literally have to share half of their space with the artist alley. They're not even in separate rooms. So
little too small in that regard.
Yeah, that's where the size I think harms it more than helps it.
I will say that there is actually room for the con to expand. It's just that half the space was used for the
Greek Expo.
Yeah, the cultural stuff.
But I don't know if there's enough people to cause it to expand.
Probably not right now to fill out that entire like huge room.
Yeah. So I wasn't a big fan of the exhibit hall or just the general cosplays. I wasn't a big fan of the gatherings, which were very poorly planned, very poorly organized, and very poorly run.
Yeah, there was pretty much nobody to lead the gatherings.
Which is kind of flabbergasting because you have to submit like a formal form request to get a gathering on the schedule. So
yeah, and even then there was only so many on the docket because there's only 2 gathering places and not a lot of time for people to cycle in and out for different gatherings. So, I mean, we went to one gathering and 2 people showed up, and neither of them was the person that had actually set it up to begin with.
And we don't, like, who was that person? No idea.
Yeah.
We just found those 2 Katawa Shoujo cosplayers, and we're like, well then.
So the gatherings were kind of weak. I mean, there was times where like one person would stand up and be like, "Yes, I am the leader." And in those cases, things moved smoothly, but they still weren't that great in organization. They would have the cosplays with their back, or the cosplayers with their back to the sun. They would make it really hard. Like there would not be a lot of room for the photographers to get in there. So I remember once we were on the stairs and you have about 20 people gathered up on a very small piece of stairwell trying to take pictures of the cosplayers posing against another flight of stairs. And I've got a different person in my viewfinder in each of those shots because everyone's trying to push closer and closer so they can get their shot clean of other people. Just wasn't well thought out.
Yeah, it was a bit better at the Marvel gathering, but the Avatar gathering was just not good.
Well, even at the Marvel gathering, I had to stick my camera literally all the way up, pull the viewfinder down, tilt it down so I could see what I was taking a picture of in order to clear other people. It's kind of a mess in that regard. So I'm not a big fan of the gatherings, but I don't generally like gatherings, to be honest, because they're all gonna fall in some form or fashion into that same pit trap.
Mhm.
So it's the nice thing though is you can pull people aside, get pictures before and after, especially the ones that you think did a really good job. So there's benefits, but this particular gathering system was not to my liking.
And the limit of the 2 locations was unfortunate because of...
They were outside.
Oh, well, they were outside, and we'll get to the weather in a minute, folks. But it was also the problem of, because you only had 2 locations, on Saturday, they just had gatherings packed together like sardines. And if you wanted to see 2 that happened to be at the same time...
Boned.
Yeah, that wasn't probably going to happen unless you were going to, like, miss half of one.
Yeah. So yeah, like you were saying, and they actually organized some of the most popular series at the same time.
Yeah, you don't put Marvel and One Piece at the same time.
People want to see them both.
Yeah, that's one of the things you try to accommodate for. But like Taylor was saying, the weather, the fact that both of these were held outside the gathering spots, it was not cold in Sacramento. It was not pleasant in Sacramento. It was hot. It was just hot.
It was high 80s, at least all weekend.
At the lowest. Yeah, at the lowest.
At the lowest, and we were looking at the weather schedule as we were leaving, and it's like, wow, it's getting even hotter. Well, I guess we can't complain too much because we're leaving, but at the same time, speaking as someone who was in some pretty thick cosplay for 2 days, thank God for air conditioning. Let's just leave it at that.
Indeed.
And I'm not sure about you guys, but I got a little bit of sun from that.
Yeah, my arms are toasty looking now. But that was a process started way before, and just happened to continue on into the convention.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Inside is where it's at.
Yeah.
So, from the gatherings, let's segue into another little scheduling quip we had, which was the lack of adult entertainment, for lack of a better phrase.
21
Grown-up
plus
entertainment.
21 plus.
Well,
yeah.
Even 18 plus, really.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I can think of really for 18 plus was the speed dating, right?
Yes.
I think there was one other, but I couldn't tell you what it is now.
I don't believe the rave was even 18 plus.
Nope. The rave was all ages.
Yeah,
Rave was absolutely all ages.
And you did see all ages there, which, not that I'm saying children can't have fun at a good party, but at the same time, like, there was no age cutoff past, like, I don't know, midnight or some such. And and so it just didn't seem all that well thought out.
That's actually kind of funny because I distinctly remember when we were there hearing the F word used a lot in one of DJ Hitomi's songs.
Yep.
Oh yeah, there was language in the music, and the adults were not keeping things G-rated. That's all you need to say. So I feel like that could have been handled more tastefully, but oh well.
Yeah.
On semi side note, usually at these cons, I have like my legs hurt by the end of them. Like you're just walking around, and even at the rave, like you're bouncing around and dancing. This con, for the first time, I wore a new pair of shoes and wore sole inserts, and my legs barely hurt at all during my entire time at the con.
Oh, well, that's good. So, hey, that's a good piece of just con survival advice, folks. Sole
Yes.
inserts in the shoes just might save your day.
Especially if you have to carry a ton of stuff.
Yes, because you were carrying camera equipment, Todd was carrying some camera equipment, and just like amenities to keep us going as a group.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that pretty much covers the bulk of the convention itself. The last thing really is more about the area, because while we generally like the layout, talking about the restaurants and everything that was available locally, we have to note that our specific hotel, which again was right across the street from the convention center, there was a bar right next to us that was open till 2 a.m. and the customers were loud, they were rowdy, and they probably kept up our entire side of the street.
Yeah, I could hear them whenever I did wake up at night. They were just yelling and noise, and it was party time for them.
and that party did not stop even after 2 a.m., says I. I think it kept going at least till 3 a.m.
Well, I think a lot of it was them going home because I remember hearing a lot of cars honking. I'm assuming they were just stumbling through the street or something because there was a lot of honking going on, a lot of yelling.
Maybe that's what it was. I was pretty tired at the time.
So I will say that I think if you get your choice between the hotels, I would give the Sheraton a shot first because we had some problems at the Residence Inn Marriott.
Yeah, because there's the bar across the street, but then there's the bar down the street, and I feel like there was a third one somewhere, but I can't remember. But yeah, so if you want a good night's sleep, be aware.
Yeah. Be on the lookout. That's just our 2 cents from having stayed there, along with having some fool sleep in the bathtub, flood his floor, destroy the circuitry, and then like basically take the power out for 5 hours, which was not a pleasant experience. And we also lost our room service for the day, or our housekeeping for the day. So that was bad all around.
Yeah, it was a mildly troubled stay, but I can't. The power outage, I can't feel like we can blame that on the hotel because
Well, I question that because like you would think that they would have something redundant for the hotel, but also they could at least try to extend some kind of like coverage or amenities for us for having to put up with that, and they never even.
That is true. There was no even like a whispered rumor about any kind of like
comp.
Yeah, just no kind of comp, which I understand. Like, who can predict some idiot flooding their bathroom? You can't predict that. At the same time, neither can the other people staying there who now don't have power.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't able. Yeah. The thing is, everything that the guests need is in the room. They don't have an ice machine. You have to use the ice maker in the freezer. The refrigerator also in the room. Everything was in the room, the microwave and all of that stuff. So if you wanted to do anything, it was all out of power.
Yeah, we were kind of screwed there.
And we couldn't take a shower until much later in the day because we had to wait for the sunlight to actually be able to get into our bathrooms and see what was happening. So, I mean, there was a lot of inconvenience to us.
Yeah, not to mention that we had multiple electronics that could have used a battery charge right about then.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say just, if first preference would be the Sheraton, if you can't get in at the Sheraton, I would say that besides those problems, the Residence Inn was fine. If you're lucky, you'll get a room like clear on the opposite end of the building, and you won't even have to worry about what's happening on the bar outside on the street.
Not to mention the food at the Sheraton. Oh, so good.
Yeah, truffle fries were top notch. The bread pudding was amazing. That mac and cheese, though.
That was at the Residence Inn.
That's what we're talking about. Oh, are you not talking about the Sheraton?
I just said Sheraton.
Oh, that too.
Yeah, that was at the Residence Inn.
Yeah, the Sheraton, the burgers. We all had the same thing.
which was fantastic. 3
Yeah.
recommendations right here.
Yeah.
Get a burger at the Sheraton. You won't regret it.
Solid
Hotel
burgers,
food
good fries.
does not suck.
Yeah. No, it just costs you an arm and a leg, but in this case, it was worth it because we were hungry.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were approaching hangry, actually.
Well, it was a long day.
Yeah. So that's our report as a whole. I think Sac Anime would probably be a go for me, especially if it's local to you. Is it worth flying into to see? I don't know. I don't think I would say yes. The experience just wasn't that original or exciting enough for me. I will be going back just because I want to give it a second shot, maybe while the Greek thing isn't going on, because that did close off a large section of the convention center.
Plus, we might see more cosplay because so many different cons were happening on that weekend.
There was a lot of cons going on, but again, I can't imagine too many people from Virginia or Chicago being like, let's go to Sac Anime. It's not like Dragon Con or Anime Expo or PAX or anything like that where it's got, a national renown. So I don't expect too much of a difference in the level of cosplay, to be honest. But maybe it'll be easier to wander around. Maybe there'll be more room for gatherings since they won't be closing off half of the convention center. I'm just gonna go back and find out. But right now, I'm reserved as to whether or not I would say make a long trip for it. But if you're local, I'd say it's a go.
As far as local
Definitely
cons,
if you're local or live within 2 hours.
Yeah, as far as local cons go, I think it's fine. I would say that, generally speaking, it's a positive con experience because the problems we have with it are a little specific to us. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it 7 out of 10. It's a perfectly reasonable con, especially for the price.
Yeah, if they can keep getting guests like they've been getting, it's phenomenal.
But as Gary said, if you're thinking about like traveling across time zones for Sac Anime, no.
Yeah. If you live close like me, I'd give it a good 8 out of 10.
And there you have it. It's generally positive, but once you start getting further out away from it, more of a your mileage may vary situation. So I'm Gary.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Todd /Coconut.
And we're Brotaku. Thanks for listening.